Hey guys, I'm back again. Today we're going to be doing a restoration on this Dunlap 10-inch pipe wrench. Dunlap was one of Sears' budget brands. They were like a step below Craftsman. This one has the pivoting jaw feature, which you don't see on many modern pipe wrenches. The lower jaw and handle are also forged out of one piece of steel. On modern wrenches, usually only the jaws are forged and the handle is cast. These are a pretty good beginner project if you want to get into restoring tools. To remove the rust, I'm going to be dunking this in Evaporust, but there is some dirt stuck in the jaws, so I'm going to take it to the wire wheel to remove that. The Evaporust is great at removing rust, but it does not remove dirt. So you need to make sure your part is clean before dunking it. I'll also wire wheel the nut to get the dirt out of the knurling. The cleaner your part is before dunking, the better the Evaporust will work, and you'll lower the risk of contaminating the fluid and ruining it. Any oil or grease left on the tool will contaminate the fluid, so it's also a good idea to wash everything in the sink with soap and water before dunking. I found this mud pan that's just about the right size for all three pieces. So we'll fill this up with Evaporust and then let it soak overnight. Alright, so it's the next day. Let's get this out of here. It's already looking much better. There's still a little bit of rust remaining in a couple spots. Some of it is just wiping off with a paper towel. The rest I'll take care of with a Scotch-Brite pad later. The upper jaw looks great. I always save the old Evaporust, as you can reuse it multiple times. But I never put used Evaporust back in the original bottle. If it gets contaminated, then you'll ruin the whole bottle. So I pour the old stuff into this old protein powder container. It's just the right size for dunking smaller items. Here's our condition after the Evaporust. You can now make out the Dunlap marking a lot better. I also noticed there's a bonus hole on the back of the handle. I think this is missing a second leaf spring that would have been riveted on there. It should still work fine without it. The head will just be a little floppy. I also noticed on the other side here it says Germany. So this was made in Germany, and since it doesn't say West Germany, it was probably made prior to World War II. Let's get those few bits of remaining rust off of there. I'm just using a Scotch-Brite pad for this. I could have dunked it back in the Evaporust for a couple more hours to remove that, but we're going to want to Scotch-Brite these pieces anyway. The Evaporust leaves a dusty black coating on the metal, and I want to remove that before we start painting. The leaf spring on the front is a little loose, so I'm going to set it in the vise and then tap it with a hammer to try and reseat that rivet. Yeah, it's much tighter now. And I got it mostly centered. Here you can see how the jaw pivots. There should be a second spring on the other side that's missing. Now, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with this. From the pictures I saw online, it was likely that this was painted red. Most of them only showed the bottom half of the handle painted, so I think that's what we're gonna do here. Some show this top part painted, and others didn't. I think it'll look cooler with that part painted, so that's what we'll do. Next, I'm going to carefully mask off the parts that we don't want painted, being careful to wrap the tape around so that it meets and creates a nice line. Here's our post-masking state. I tried to get as much tape as I could under that movable jaw part, but if any paint gets under there, nobody's going to see it anyway. Before painting, I want to wipe everything down with denatured alcohol. Any residual oil from your skin that's still on there could mess up the paint job. To hold it for painting, I wrapped a clamp in a plastic bag, which is holding the pipe wrench on one of the masked sections. Then I put that clamp in a vise, which is also wrapped in a plastic bag. The plastic bags will keep overspray off of the clamp and the vise. I'm just using tractor paint for this. The final coat will be Massey Ferguson Red. I went with 1 coat of primer, then 3 light coats of red. Normally you'd want to remove the masking tape while the paint is still slightly tacky, but I let this sit for a couple days, so I'm using a knife to cut the paint around the tape line. If you don't cut the tape after the paint has cured, you run the risk of the paint flaking off around the tape line. That's looking pretty good. Now we could just put this back together like this, but we need to do something to protect that bare metal so it doesn't rust again. Just sitting out for a couple of days, I noticed some flash rust forming on the movable jaw. So I'm going to coat the bare metal with fluid film. Fluid film is a wool-based oil. I coat the undercarriage of my vehicles with this every year before winter. It stays in place and offers pretty good protection from rust. It darkens the metal ever so slightly and gives it a little bit of a sheen, but doesn't make it too shiny. Now on the handle, the paint here has fully cured. You don't want to be applying oil to paint that hasn't cured yet. It could mess up the finish. But this paint is fully cured now, so I'm not worried about that here. Evaporust makes a non-oil-based spray that's supposed to prevent rust, but I haven't tried that yet, so I'm not sure how it works. Now that everything is lubed up, we can reassemble. Of course, you can do whatever you want with yours. Paint the whole thing if you like. Just remember that any paint you put on the jaws or the threads for that movable jaw is going to get worn away the first time you use the tool. Tools like this are great beginner projects. I think I paid 50 cents for this guy at the flea market. And once restored, you have a functional tool that's probably nicer than most tools you could buy in the store today. There's not much you can screw up on restoring a pipe wrench like this. And even if you did, you'd only be out 50 cents. Here's your before and after shot. Yeah, I think this is pretty close to how it would have looked back in the 30s or 40s when you picked this up at the Sears store. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure you're subscribed for more tool restoration videos. See you later. Bye.